Welcome back, everybody, once again to another episode. This is a little experimental thing. I've got another guest today. I had Jordan Drake from DPReview last week, I suppose, and, Jordan's all right, right? So we have to have Chris. Chris is going to bring it all home. So, Chris, I miss you, man. It's been way too long. Many of
Ted, I miss you too, Ted. You saved the best for last, I guess. We'll just keep that between us and the thousands of people that are going to watch this show.
Funny story. So I recorded Jordan. It was a week ago yesterday, so it was on Thursday. And it's public now, so I can talk about it. But literally, I think at the end of that video, he said, well, I'm expecting the second kid. And it was within the next week. Well, it turns out like the next day, Ev went to the hospital. So I was like rushing to get that video up because I knew they were bored waiting around. And I have an audience of whoever,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it was fun. But anyway, congratulations to both of them. We've already both told them, and I'm sure you've probably seen the little girl now.
I've seen the baby. They named her Christine after me, which is really, really sweet. I was very touched by that. That's a lie, but no, she's doing great. And yeah, it was crazy. They were shutting down the hospitals, and they're like, well, not shutting them down, but they're like, no more births at this hospital. So
oh, really?
So they're like, we got to get you in, get you done. Baby out quicker than we expected, and so
this is happening. Yeah, now.
Man, yes,
wow.
It's real.
The miracle of of living in 2020, I guess. But so I do want to say this though, because you have and I have never collaborated on anything before, and that I have the utmost respect for everything you and Jordan do. I said this last week. Seriously, I mean, when I started doing my channel, it was like you guys were like pretty big with Camera Store, and I used to watch you guys religiously. It's like, these guys are good. Like, I mean, the way you would cover stuff, everything. It's like, half of my junk I just steal from you guys because I think you're amazing. But anyway, this is going to be fun today. I'm really excited about this because the first time we met, I think was, can you believe this? It was in 2018 in Las Vegas.
That was the first time, hey?
It was when they launched the Sony A7 III, and that was a huge press trip.
Yes, that's right. Oh, it feels like so much longer than that. Isn't that funny?
I know, it's bizarre. Well, a lot of us feel like we know each other because we've seen each other, and it's.
Oh, we hit it off right away, and.
Oh yeah, it's like we'd known each other forever.
Always good, and we were messaging before that, but it's been a crazy ride. I miss you. Actually, I don't know when I'm going to see you next again.
I know.
It's probably going to be like 2026
a long time.
Or something. I don't know.
I can insert. I have. This is funny because I've actually used some of my downtime here to sort old footage. I have little clips I can roll of the real Chris Niccolls. Takes those and rebrands them. But
It's Jurian.
How do you say GoPro in Canadian?
GoPro.
How do you say it in South African?
GoPro.
Like anything to get the shot.
Just presenting.
Anything but still, following the rules is an appropriate Canadian.
Every hair in place.
Really? Still? Oh,
yes.
Thank goodness.
I'm sweaty. You guys aren't.
I've got a vest on. You guys, look over here.
Thank you very much.
I could be fresher right now, but it's fun. We had a good time. Preference? Which one are you buying? You shelling out the 13 grand? You gonna do it?
I don't think I'm gonna do it, but I would love to do it myself.
Be cool. All right. We have had a lot of fun, and just because of the bizarre vocation of what we all do, it's a lot of fun. And of course, now a lot of this is over, at least for the time being. And so that's where I had this idea when I did the interview with Jordan. Is why don't I get some of my friends to come on? Because I've seen a side of Chris Niccolls that I don't think the public gets to see so much. and I mean this in a good way.
Oh, good, yes.
Because the one of the first conversations that you and I have, and I'm leading you into something here.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think we were at and I don't remember where, when, or what it was, but it was a dinner of some type, and you lean over and you're like, you're into Fred Herzog. And I'm like, holy cow. A Canadian madman, and of course Chris would know Fred Herzog. And so we started talking about that because I did a video on Fred Herzog a long time ago, who, if those of you who aren't familiar, is he passed away last year, I think.
Yes.
A brilliant street photographer who lived in Vancouver, and a kind of an eccentric guy from anything I can gather.
As I think most of the good ones are, yeah, but
Probably so.
He was a character, but yeah, very interesting. I love there's just a quality of the photographs that you rarely, I don't know if I've ever even really seen it. He has a distinct style, you know. There's street
absolutely.
photographers who are very skilled, but they all share a very similar look to other street photographers.
There is
his
a
stuff
style,
was
right?
unique. It was his own,
Yeah.
and early color film. He just made magic with early color film that was just stunningly gorgeous.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point, because especially back in the 50s and 60s when everybody was shooting black and white mostly, like color was his thing.
Yeah.
And it was slide film, and it was also, arguably a place in the world too with Vancouver that it's not Paris, it's not New York, it's a little lesser known, but what a cool vibe that you can see in all those images.
What I loved about that work, at the camera store we had a book library area, and that was actually my first experience with Fred Herzog. I didn't really follow him. I actually, as a kid, I'm getting a little up there, but as a kid, I was doing my own black and white film photography, Nikon FE, like old school is how I started, and I was looking at photographers, contemporary photographers like Dave Beckerman in New York City, or Stuart Redler. He did a lot of beautiful lithographic work, that kind of stuff. It was really high contrast. It was beautiful, like rain-soaked New York City streets, and and stark Spanish landscapes and stuff, like beautiful stuff. But I never looked at color. I was like, oh, black and white for life. This is amazing. This is my jam. And then you see that work, and you're right. Vancouver, especially at that time, it wasn't a cosmopolitan-looking city. It was almost looked like a frontier town in a way. This coastal port. It was really interesting, the work he got, the advertisements, the muted color, and he worked in a lot of cases in really brutal full-on sunlight. And with color slide film of that era, I'm surprised I would not be able to get proper exposures 8% of the time.
High noon, I'd be blowing highlights right and left. Oh. And not only that, but he had like something to say in those photographs, It's like he was such a master. See, this is the Chris I was talking about. and you don't get to do a lot of this, I think, in the context of Camera Store DPReview as much. I think, you've done some different stuff with DPReview, but, I think that a lot of people, when you're in, and I guess we all get into it, where you're reviewing cameras, and that's fun too, but like you teach as well. And I think that's amazing. Probably not right this second, but...
No, in fact, I'm good for the summer now. I always take the summers off to fish and just kind of, take a break anyways. But my classes ended a little early this year, but I'm okay with that. It's good. But I do miss the teaching aspect of it. And I like that. You're right. I mean, being on camera, doing the gear reviews, that's what we do. And especially when we moved to DPReview, I would even argue it even stepped it up a little bit in terms of technical information and that kind of stuff, right? So that's been a departure for me because, you're right, Ted. Like, I love just taking pictures. You don't get to talk about the art of photography except with my students. So I really value that time. And it's one of those things where sometimes you can get just absorbed in technical stuff and we got to get sample shots and we got to see the effects of this lens scientifically. And really, I just want to talk about character and talk about, look and color and honestly just try to find the right light. I mean, it's I'm going to complain here. Why not? I'm going to complain here. It's not a complaint. I'm very lucky and I'm very fortunate, but there's something to be said for a lot of people. When you're a photographer, you look for good light, you wait for the right moments, you kind of hunt and chase for that light. And for us, we shoot on scheduled days. So it's like, Chris, go get 50 photos that you can use, whether it's cloudy or overcast or crap light or high noon or, whatever. And so
it's Wednesday and this video must be done today, no matter what it's doing.
So I miss just being able to kind of go out and shoot for myself and chase light and not have so much pressure if it doesn't work out. There's a lot to be said for that.
I think that's you nailed it. It's like, I think that's one side that people don't see, when you put together a camera review, because one thing that it's always bothered me to an extent, and I think that YouTubers in general are probably more consistently better than, with the old school where you had the blogs, like especially back, when digital kind of started becoming a thing, so early 2000s maybe, and like test shots were really pretty mediocre. For the most part, it's like my favorite is like the action figure on the shelf with like this collection of bizarre toys that one shouldn't own. So, when and I know you guys are the same way. It's like, when you have a deadline on something and you've got a camera, you've got a review, you try to do the best you can. And I don't know if you know Blair Bunting or not. He's a Hasselblad endorsee, really nice guy, but we have this joke that it's like, your weather's not good, it's cold, and so you end up with leaves and trees. In your case, it would be puddles, because that's a running joke if you know
puddles,
Chris.
Things on concrete, dead trees, lots of that. Just barren wasteland that is Alberta. 3 seasons of the year. Let me interrupt though, because I would argue though, there's a few of your videos that I think were over the top outstanding. Aww. And maybe you got lucky with the weather or whatever. One of them was the G9, where you guys went out in the snow and you had was he a wildlife photographer that was with you when you guys did that? Yes, absolutely. We went out with Joe Desjardins, and we went to just a kind of place. We've got a playground, is what we like to call it here in Alberta. It's public land. It's not national parks or provincial parks. It's just basically what we call it crown land, because the Queen technically right owns it all. And it's public access land, and we call it Kananaskis. That's our kind of playground. So we drove out into K country, Kananaskis, and we had a great time. Sunrises and Wedge Pond, and we tried to get some good stuff out there.
When it works, it works. But there are occasions where it's like this has got to go up tomorrow, and at a strange time, like 1 a.m, because like an embargo's lifting or something.
Oh, absolutely.
And you got to do what you got to do, and you make the best of it. And some days it, as you know, it doesn't hit. It's raining.
Oh yeah.
Or it's
for me, puddles. I'm good. Rain's great. It's, if it's,
you have a workaround.
If it's like flat overcast, I'm a little sad. But. And in the wintertime, here, because we're so northern in our climate, actually the wintertime on a fully sunny day, we actually get beautiful side lighting because the sun is quite a bit lower. But then come summertime, we get really long days, and then it's actually really tough because it's just like sun 90 degrees perpendicular to the earth for like the whole day. But, we'll tough through it.
Long shadows.
And actually one of the videos that we just did is we got to play with a few rolls of the Fuji Acros 2 emulsion. And,
I've seen the video. Yep.
Dude, that was a lot of fun. That was great. So I do get my moments where I get to just have fun, relax, kind of not worry about the technical so much, and just kind of get back to the roots. And I love that. That was a great day. I had a lot of fun with that.
That's actually an interesting point that you brought up too with Fuji, because I have a video forthcoming. You guys beat me to it, but
you'll do it better.
I'm pretty. Did you? Well, no, I don't know about that. Did you guys? Okay, so I know you have a film background. Did you ever use the original Acros?
I did, and I actually didn't like it very much, Ted. To be honest.
Really interesting.
I was, I always found Fuji Acros, like, it was very sharp, absolutely right, modern style film, but I always found it was kind of middle of the road. I'm going to lose about 10,000 subscribers here and just say this, but like HP5 and FP4, not a big fan. I'm with you for a similar reason. And, I was really, and again, as a kid, I was really into Tri-X all the way. HC110, Tri-X. I once read a British review where they called it chalk and cheese. I thought that was quite charming because they only got black or white, right? No grays. And then I switched to Rodinal. I kind of had an Agfa APX phase. I really dug that.
That was an amazing film, yes.
And then Neopan 400, which is basically Tri-X. They look very similar. That became my bread and butter. I switched to Rodinal and later Xtol, and I really loved 400 Neopan and 1600 Neopan. I'd pull it to 640. And for me, that was nirvana because I couldn't get Agfa anymore. Yeah. It kind of had already gone under.
You've just mentioned all three of the developer phases. I mean, we are brothers from another mother.
Right?
I'm telling you. I mean, it's, no, seriously. But the one thing I loved about Acros, now I agree with you that it just didn't have, the original Acros didn't have the soul that some other films had. But there was one thing that it did, because I went through this weird phase where I was doing all this night photography. And a friend of mine and I, we'd do stupid stuff. We'd go out in like pitch black, and he was shooting a pinhole. We were just trying to be macho with it. But Acros would have, I can't remember what exactly it was. I used to be able to tell you, but it would be like, I think it was up to like 30 minutes with no
reciprocity.
Reciprocity failure. I can't ever say it. Reciprocity failure, which essentially means that with film, when you have really long exposures, it starts to fail. And so you need to give it more time. And there were calculators back in the day with HP5 on how to do this. And yeah, it was brutal. And Acros would be pretty spot on for long periods of time. And so it was really wonderful. And if you did it in Rodinal as a stand development, you'd get really beautiful, sharp images. And that was what I used it for. Now, I haven't tested it yet. Maybe we shouldn't talk about this, but
Reciprocity
with the two. But I know this is really exciting. But did they retain that in the second version of this film?
I think everybody over 40 is just like they've got a heart on now. They're like, yes, reciprocity. And everybody else is like, oh, forget. Was that like a romantic comedy movie or something? I don't know. Forget.
No, they're off watching DPReview videos right
exactly.
now. They've left this channel immediately. But it's fascinating. And I think the time that we live in now. I mean, that's one of the exciting things for me is that I guess. A couple of years ago, it really felt like film was going away, and we would hear drastic announcements. And of course, there have been some recently, like Ilford is on hold, last I heard. Which, if you're a film shooter, it's a huge deal. But at the same time, it's like Keith Carter, who's a Texas-based photographer, I did for the Artist Series, and he always says, the beautiful thing is that you're like standing at the top of the history of photography, and nothing has ever been replaced. It's all available to you right now. If you want to go do 10 types or amber types or whatever, I mean, you can do anything, right? And that's exciting, from a creative standpoint.
Yeah. I think I'm going to petition, actually, that we change DPReview.com from digital photography review to, like, daguerreotype platinum palladium review.com.
I will sign your petition, my friend.
Let's just go back to that. I'm going to coat metal, and it's going to be amazing. Yeah, we're going to go...
What's funny is, though, the guys that I know over at DP Review, including you and Jordan, but Rishi and Richard and all those other guys, I think that they would absolutely tear that up if let's just say in a fantasy world you did do something like that.
Daguerreotype Palladium Review.com, yeah.
Oh my God, if some of you guys knew like how smart some of these guys are over at DP Review and just the technical, like Rishi, for instance.
Oh yeah.
And how deep he'll go with things, and if it like he would cut that stuff up like tomatoes and make it. I mean, it'd be amazing.
I think the key thing to remember is DP Review gets they get a deserved reputation of being very technical, very scientific, but
yes.
All the staff members there started just loving photography with very basic gear, right? And then the rest came. Yeah. So, they've actually been very supportive of all the wacky stuff that we want to do and the weird stuff.
You guys bring such a nice balance.
It's so,
that,
we're really lucky.
You're perfect for that.
Yeah.
And that's, I remember when it wasn't long after that first time we met. I was maybe in about a year later, because I remember we were on the trip to San Francisco and we were in Muir Woods, and it may have been around. I don't remember. My time is all. I don't even know what day it is, Chris.
It's spring.
COVID-19 thing. It's spring. We're under lock and key right now. But I remember when you guys were in that transition, and when I first heard the news, I thought, oh, I can't think of two better people to do that, because I think you guys bring a lot of passion and soul into something that is very technical, and both sides are very important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And people, I don't know that. And it just depends. I mean, all we have to go off of are comments, and of course, you guys get double comments because you've got a website that gets comments.
Oh, but they're not. A lot of them are pretty mean, but
sure. But it's people play football teams with things like it's either this or it's that, and I think it's both, and there's a nice balance with that. I appreciate that. I think you guys. So let me ask you about teaching, though. How many classes are you teaching? If we were in a normal zone right now,
so I've been teaching continuing education night classes. I love it because you get everything. I mean, you get teenagers to senior citizens and all in between, right? All walks of life. Just wanting to kind of learn and get better photography skills, and for many different reasons, right? It's really cool. But I've been doing that, 14 or 15 years now. It's been a long
I knew it was a while.
Right? And I really like that every year. And so typically I'll do 2 nights a week. I teach a basic class. That's, of course, I think any teacher that you ask, regardless. I know you've done some teaching too. Like any teacher that you ask.
Yep.
The basic photography classes are always the most fun because the people...
Yes.
have those aha moments, right? Where there's like, oh, I get it. That's how it works. Like, and it's so rewarding to do that. And then I teach an advanced photography class, and that one we get more into raw photography. We get into bit rates, color spaces, ISO invariants. Like we get into more technical stuff, and that's a lot of fun too. But in a different way. Yeah, in a different crowd, and that's nice because you can say things and you already know that people understand a lot of the stuff that you're coming across with, whereas the basic, you're taking it right back to just let's start at the beginning. But I find them both rewarding. I really enjoy it, and I'm not sad. I always take the summer off, but come fall, who knows? Will it be running again? I hope so.
So they haven't tried to usher you into an online situation with your classes.
Actually,
take it because a lot of schools have done
I had to finish the last semester halfway through online. Yeah, which
online,
which is strange because for me, I'm like a in front of people kind of person, right? I like to talk.
I am too.
It's strange doing doing this over a camera. It's really weird when you're trying to teach, I find.
Yeah, in fact, that's actually, I really haven't ever really talked about this on the show. When I started doing these videos, I had my day job. I was doing this for fun on the side, and I taught sometimes I think one semester it was 3 classes at a community college on the side. And yeah, and I loved it. I mean, I don't know how I did it looking back. I'm like, I must have had a lot of energy back then because I'm whipped now. I mean, my life was a lot different, but it was, I miss it, and I still keep in touch with a few of the students that I had back then, which is really cool. But the reason that I dropped it is because online was starting up back then, and they were trying to bring in, and look, I get it. It's a school, and so there's a little bit of a political element to it, but they were trying to bring in new teachers that were working on their doctorate somewhere, and that wasn't me. So, let's bring in these people, we'll give them the real classes, and let's throw Ted in the online classes. And I thought, okay, fine, I can do this, because I was making YouTube videos, so it's like, okay, what's a little more, right? And then, the problem that I had is that with community college, this is people who generally are out of high school or returning. The returning students didn't want to take online, but the kids out of high school thought, I can do this on my own time, and I can take 30 hours a semester, something crazy. And so, yeah, you had a lot of people that would blow it off. And the fact that I just never knew anybody. And then it wasn't even video back then. I mean, now at least you can Zoom or FaceTime or Google Hangout or whatever. Back then it was just like a forum looking thing. And I that's when I quit. I was like,
how do you show somebody, so many people starting out, it's not even the photography part they need to learn. They need to learn, what does this button do? Where do I find ISO on my camera? How do you show that to somebody online, right? I mean, it's pretty difficult. So.
No, I know. It's really difficult. And actually the thing that I would argue is actually impossible. And I know, I've never seen you teach, but I know you, and so I know you do this really well. But inspiring that passion in somebody, igniting and finding that, because I think from a teaching perspective, when you have a student that comes in, and sometimes you can tell that you can see where that excitement is. And so your job is to really kind of encourage that somewhat. It's like, come on, get excited. Okay, you're going to learn ISO and you're going to learn the f-stops, but you're doing really interesting things with these 3 things. So let's keep that, And so you kind of do that. And
teaching for me,
that's the best
part. Teaching for me has always been a performance, really. People are like, oh, how do you do this? It's like, well, it was just a performance. It's about keeping people entertained and passing through that knowledge. But really being able to read a crowd, it's a performance. And that's why going to YouTube and doing the gear reviews, it's all because I was teaching before that. That's how that transition worked so easily for Jordan and I. It just, for me, it was just teaching. Although ironically, I'm talking about how I like to teach 2 people, and of course YouTube, you're teaching on camera. So just ignore everything I said in the last 5 minutes.
Well, you're right. Both of us, for that matter, right? I quit teaching for YouTube, right? Well, but so here's another little nugget that I'll embarrass you with. So I have had the bizarre opportunity of having been a fan of you guys since the early days. There have been several instances on trips where we go out and it's interesting. Well, we do a lot of that. But when the rubber's hitting the road, so to speak, and we have to get our videos done, and it's interesting, especially with the blog guys that are on the trips tend to they go hole up somewhere because they're writing. They need a laptop. Fine. And so it's interesting because a lot of the YouTubers go back to their room too. I don't like to do that. I need to get some outside and some context and so on and so forth. So there's been a few times where I've been out and I'm like, oh, there's Chris Niccolls over there. I'm gonna be very quiet and not get I have the utmost respect for you, Chris, because you have this way of when people see you and you're very put together on camera and you're able to just rattle off stuff that did he memorize that? No, you're that way. And it's really cool to watch you guys. And every now and then you'll see me. You don't see me, man. Because I'm checking you guys out because it's just really impressive. And you and Jordan have such a great dynamic together. Where I think you're able just to work a certain way, and I get envious of that sometimes because I wish I could do that. I'm a one-man band here, so some days I'm not very inspired.
Ted,
it's
killing it.
Yeah.
No, and you get to talk about.
But
I love that you get to talk about art and you get to talk about learning. Yeah, sometimes right. And the gear reviews. But yeah, it's a funny experience doing those press events and at least I could say for Jordan and I, they're not vacations, it's work. Like we go there and it's like,
Oh my
damn,
God.
especially because as you said, right? Like we want to make our show just like you do. And, I always catch you. You're blogging. You're working so hard on these trips, Ted. And you have to do so much more because you said you don't have Jordan to help you out, right? So you've got camera in your hand. Right? I'm seeing you walking around. You got gimbal here in front of you. You're talking to camera, trying not to run into people, having to get on a bus, right? Like it's crazy, and you do it so well. And
it's weird.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. There's no downtime. Yeah. You got to catch the pretty light. Everybody else is like relaxing and chilling, and we're out there on the beach trying to get a talking point done. But that's what we love to do.
I don't ever think of it this way, but in terms of like peeling back the curtain here and what those are like. I think it's interesting, the dynamic between all of us, because I think there's an enormous amount of respect that we have. Obviously, we're sitting here, I appreciate that. But we do have an enormous amount of respect for one another. But at the same time, we're also, I don't know if it's a competitive thing as much as it's you want to be unique. It's like one of the biggest problems is when we're all on a press trip and we're all shooting the same things and we're all in the same locations. It's like we're all making the same video, right? And none of us want to do that. And so how can you do something that's a little bit different, a little bit unique? And I think that's a huge challenge when you're on those.
Yeah, I mean, competitive to some degree. Like there was a lot of stress. It was a lot of stress, and you see a lot of other people, and you're like, oh, like what are they doing? Like what are they doing? Like, Very quickly, though, what I loved about it is we really started forming with you and with, like Tony and Chelsea and, Manny Ortiz, and like I name drop, Jared Poland, like all these people. We start to form like
everybody, I know.
Gordon Lang, right? You start to form this family. It really is like a second family. I really valued those trips because it's like, oh, we get to go see our friends. Like, who's going to be on this trip? And all that competitive nature is gone now, right? Like, it's just like, oh, what did you think about the lens? Like, what are you going to write? Oh, yeah, I'm kind of going this angle. Like, oh, that's really cool. Like, I was thinking this. You're like, oh, that's insightful. Like, I think it's really nice as a family now that we kind of all get together and talk. And it's neat to see a lot of the other groups that stick to themselves. But I feel like we're the fun ones, our group, our cohesive group. We're the fun ones.
Of course we are. What are you kidding?
And I, it's great. And there's no competitiveness. There's no animosity. There's no, anything like that. Like, it's just like, just have fun. Get the work done.
How did you get into photography? What was like your first experience? Like what made this thing like, oh, I dig this,
That's crazy. My first experience, I went to the University of Calgary here in Calgary.
Okay.
And I registered late.
Wait, University of Calgary in Calgary.
In Calgary. Yes, absolutely.
This is my bad stab at John.
Okay, because I know there's like 46 Calgarys across the planet. There's probably one in Scotland somewhere. I could have gone.
I can't let you go without giving you a hard time. The whole thing was not a setup. I really am interested in the story. So you went to University of Calgary.
Yeah, and I registered late, so all that was left was like English, general, like philosophy 101, right? Like stuff that I wasn't really interested in, and
a bunch of PE classes and photography, right?
Photography, right? So I took photography because it was all that was left, and honestly, I hated it, and I think I failed that class.
Really?
So,
oh, that's funny.
I totally did.
It's hilarious.
Because I really didn't enjoy it. And then I don't know what it was. A couple years later, I was looking, actually, there's really, I'm going to do a shout out. I have no idea if it's still on, but old school website. I think it was out of either Malaysia or Singapore.
Yeah.
I might be getting it wrong. But it was just mir.com.
I was about to say MIR, and they had all the Nikon stuff. And
yes.
Yep.
They had all the vintage cameras and vintage lenses, and they actually did a great.
Oh my God! I can't believe you said that.
Right?
Old school.
We're talking like when we were kids. This was exciting because now everybody's like, "What a boring website!" But it was badass. And
everything.
I was researching all these vintage cameras, and I saw in this local store a Nikon FE, and I was like, "That is the most beautiful camera I've ever seen in my entire life." I still think that, and I bought it, and I was just like, "You know what? I did this in university. I failed at it, but I'm gonna try it again." And I just walked alleyways and took pictures of just dumb stuff and started to learn. I got a book called The Kodak Joy of Photography because everything was called Joy of something back then.
Yeah.
And I learned on that. And, you got photos from like Ernst Haas and stuff. It was really cool.
Oh, Haas. Oh, yes.
Right. And it just, and it blew my mind. And it was like, oh, this is amazing. And so that was really it. And then I went to London for a couple of years. London, England, not London, Ontario. See, Ted, it could be multiple places. There could be Calgary's all over.
We have a Paris, Texas. Just
there you go. There you go. And I worked at a photo lab there because I was interested in shooting, and that kind of did it. And when I came back home to Calgary, I went to the camera store because it's what I knew, and I got a job. And
that was it.
Decades later, here I am.
So amazing. And you just like fired off Ernst Haas. And every time you and I talk, like somebody comes up and it's like, genius. Ernst Haas is like, he's the man. I mean, and Herzog, all those guys. And another color guy.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Before color was cool, man.
Yeah, if you can find the Kodak Joy of Photography, highly recommend that book. Find it.
It's got a lot of Haas in there. It
does, yeah. I've got volume 1 and 2, and nobody can have it, but we'll see.
Well, are you active on the Twitter?
I do the Twitter thing, yes.
The Twitter. This is old guys. We call it the Twitter. Yeah. So Ernst Haas's, I believe it's his daughter. There's the Ernst Haas estate or trust, or I can't remember what they call it, and she runs the account, and she likes my stuff every now and then, which is very flattering because it's like, man, he was the man. But and they could use a little work. She likes to jump up on like a Tuesday morning and tweet 120 images within 2 minutes of one another. Yeah, it's like
too much.
They should reach out. Yeah, it's just like, you could get more mileage if you schedule those.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, But amazing stuff. Chris, thank you so much for coming on. This was, I really want to just stretch this into a full hour, but you'll come on again, won't you?
We're almost there. Oh, anytime you want.
All right, we'll come up with something. Man, seriously, I miss you, man, and this has been fun, and yeah, this is cool, and I hope that I have exposed, no pun intended, a side of Chris that, seriously, it's like, I've had a lot of respect for what you guys did all the years at Camera Store. And then when I actually met you and found out you were working the floor and the desk and making videos and answering the phones and whatever else,
Never again.
Yeah, enormous amount of respect for that. And then when I got to know you guys, it's like, well, not only were they really cool when I watched their videos and looked up to them, but like they're really cool people too. Both you and Jordan.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're part of my family. I hope I get to see you again here at some point.
We will.
In the not too distant future.
We will beat this crazy, strange pandemic. It's bigger than an epa. It's a panna. But anyway, all right. And thank you guys for watching. If you're still here, God bless you. Catch you in the next video. Until then, later.